Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be taking a pretty in-depth look at medical AI.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at HuatuoGPT-o1.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's this, well, it's a large language model, and it's really kind of pushing the boundaries when it comes to medical reasoning, right?
Okay.
So we're basically going to be talking about an AI that's learning to think like a doctor would.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and we're going to be getting all of our information straight from the research paper.
Sounds good.
So to kind of kick things off, I think one of the biggest things that we need to talk about here is how challenging medical reasoning can be.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like mathematical reasoning where it's just straightforward calculations.
No, definitely not. It's a lot more nuanced than that.
Exactly. There are so many different things that go into it, like piecing together clues and, navigating uncertainty.
And the stakes are much higher.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're dealing with people's health and well-being here. So these decisions, they have huge consequences.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's almost like being a detective, right?
That's a good analogy.
It's not about just solving an equation.
Exactly.
You got to sort through all of these different pieces of information.
You have to consider the whole picture.
Okay, so speaking of information, one thing that I thought was really interesting was how the researchers created this data set of 40,000 verifiable medical problems.
Right.
I mean, it's really impressive, right? They took these real exam questions.
Yeah. From actual medical exams.
Yeah, and they basically formatted them in a way that allows an AI to be checked for accuracy.
That's right, yeah. It's kind of brilliant, actually.
It is.
Because it takes inspiration from the way that math problems have very clear answers, right or wrong.
Right, right.
So it allows them to objectively measure how well the AI is actually understanding.
Like if it's really grasping these medical concepts.
Yeah, and applying that knowledge.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so to make sure that it is understanding and applying that knowledge, they developed this two-stage training process.
Mm-hmm.
And the first stage is all about developing the AI's complex reasoning abilities, right?
Yes.
And to do this, they use all sorts of these different search strategies. I mean,
Right.
there are things like backtracking and exploring multiple paths.
And even self-correction, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like mirroring the thought process of an actual, human doctor.
Yeah, they really tried to make it think step by step, like a human would.
It's like they're laying the groundwork for how the AI is going to think about, medicine.
Precisely. It's establishing those foundational reasoning skills.
Wow, that's really cool. So what about the second stage? I know that involves reinforcement learning, right?
That's right, yeah. So in the second stage, it's all about refining that reasoning.
Got it. So it's like the AI is learning from its mistakes and
Right.
improving over time.
Exactly. Just like a doctor would learn from experience, right?
Makes sense.
Like through years of practice and feedback.
Yeah, like getting feedback from other doctors or,
Yeah.
seeing what works and what doesn't.
Exactly. And that's what the reinforcement learning helps the AI to do. Identify patterns, make better decisions, and ultimately, become more accurate in its diagnoses.
So it's almost like a doctor in training, constantly honing their skills.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah. It's always learning and evolving.
That's incredible. I mean, it's just amazing to think about how AI can be used in such a complex field like medicine.
It's a really exciting time to be working in this field, that's for sure. There's so much potential.
And the results are pretty impressive from what I've read.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially for tasks that require that more intricate kind of reasoning.
yeah,
HuatuoGPT-o1 seems to really outperform other systems.
that's really cool.
It kind of shows you how much potential there is
Yeah.
in teaching an AI to, think deeply about these medical problems, to
Yeah.
really work through them systematically.
Yep.
It's a big step forward.
Right. And I think something that really struck me was their focus on transparency.
Right.
Like how important it is to really understand how this AI is reasoning.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's where this whole idea of complex chain of thought comes in, right?
Topi, right?
Toti, yeah.
Yeah, basically it means the AI shows its work.
Okay,
It breaks down its reasoning so we can actually follow it.
I see.
And that makes it a lot more trustworthy, right?
Right,
Especially in medicine.
right, because it's not just about the diagnosis itself.
Right.
It's about understanding why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why did the AI come to this conclusion?
Yeah.
What were the steps involved?
And to kind of add another layer of accuracy here,
Yeah.
they've actually incorporated this verifier
Mhm.
into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using GPT-4 for that,
Right.
which is another really powerful language model.
Which is interesting in itself, right?
Yeah.
Because it
It
shows,
shows that you need that sophisticated reasoning, even to evaluate AI.
yeah, to really check its work.
Exactly.
It just highlights the complexity
Yeah.
of what we're dealing with here.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
it's not just about English either.
Right.
They actually tested their approach in the Chinese medical domain as well.
Yeah, to see if it could adapt,
Yeah.
which is really promising.
Yeah.
Because it means this could have a global impact.
Right. So this could be applicable in so many different places.
Exactly. Not just limited to one language or one region.
Wow. That's really exciting.
It really opens up the possibilities.
Yeah, it does. So let's dive a little deeper into how they actually developed HuatuoGPT-o1.
Sure.
I know they started with a base language model.
Right. Kind of like the models you see powering those chat bots,
Yeah, yeah.
But then they took it a step further.
Right, and they gave it this specialized medical knowledge.
Yeah, that's the key, that fine-tuning process.
So it's like taking this general AI
Mm-hmm.
and basically putting it through, like, rigorous medical training.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So, it actually has the language
Yeah.
and the reasoning skills that are specific to the medical field.
That makes sense. And then I guess from there, they move on to the 2 stages of training. Right. So the first stage is all about that complex reasoning,
Uh-huh.
using these search strategies.
Yeah, so can you imagine, like, the AI is navigating this maze of potential solutions,
Okay.
right? It's exploring different paths. It might backtrack
Yeah.
if it hits a dead end,
Mm-hmm.
and it's constantly checking its own logic.
So it's really learning to be flexible in its approach.
Exactly, and robust.
Right. And then the second stage brings in the reinforcement learning, right?
That's right.
Where the AI can actually learn from experience.
Yeah, it uses feedback
Yeah.
to refine its reasoning.
Kind of like a doctor would, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like over years of practice,
Yeah.
you get feedback from your mentors.
Right.
You see what works, you see what doesn't work.
You learn from your mistakes. And the AI can do the same thing.
That's so cool. And to make sure that all of this training was actually working, I know they tested HuatuoGPT-o1 pretty extensively. Right?
They did, yeah. They compared it to a bunch of other medical AI systems.
Man, how did it do?
Really well, actually.
Oh, wow.
It consistently outperformed those other systems, especially on tasks that required that high level of complex reasoning.
So it really proved the effectiveness of this whole 2-stage training approach.
It did, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I also remember reading about the verifier that they built into the system
Right, right.
using GPT-4.
Right, so even with all that training,
Yeah.
they still wanted that extra layer of accuracy.
Of course.
So they brought in GPT-4.
Which is another powerful AI.
Yeah, known for its reasoning abilities.
Right.
To double-check the outputs,
So it's like getting a second opinion from a specialist.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And finally, to make sure that everyone can really understand how HuatuoGPT-o1 works, they focused on developing its ability to generate this complex chain of thought.
Right, so it can actually show its work.
Yeah.
Which is so important for building trust.
Right, because it makes the whole reasoning process transparent.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into HuatuoGPT-o1.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, it's incredible to see these advancements in medical AI.
Yeah. It gives you a glimpse into the future,
It really does.
A future where AI could play a vital role in helping doctors diagnose
Yeah.
and treat patients.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening.